Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Midwest Fantasy Football week number 3. Apologies for missing out on last week's video. Ricky was playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I got invited to go enjoy the outdoors in like an 87-degree day and hang out in the pool. So because of that, we didn't get a video recorded. We talked about trying to sneak it in later in the week. Steve Cat is abandoning us already. We drug that over there so that way he could sit there the whole video because he was so insistent, and he's pieced out already. We were hoping to do a video for Nick last week because he had the high score 2 weeks in a row for his shit team that was only supposed to get one win. He's already got 2 high scores, but because it was cheese days last week, it just didn't happen. So apologies to Nick. Congratulations on that. Nick, Chris, you missed out on getting talked so much shit because your team was awful last week, but I think Ricky carried some of that over this week. So, all right. Anything you want to weigh in before we get started?
No, other than I can't believe you bitched out because I had D&D.
I could have done it by myself, but that's not as much fun. And it's actually a lot more work if I have to do it by myself.
Yeah, because I do all the work. Let's be real here.
Well, that's because you do all the prep and talk about things where I just talk about shit. Like, that's basically what I do for a living. You just talk about nothing. So
I'm the one that knows what's going on, and you're the one that just make general managers type statements?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay.
So,
yeah, okay.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, fuck you.
All right. Moving on to this week's video. We don't need to talk about that one. That one's from last week. Ethan's pretty good team. New team name. I think he changed that with the big Niners fan here. Ethan's pretty good team. Knocked off Scott and Josh's Pocket Dogs 154 to 65.7. That is was it almost a 90-point game? That is very impressive.
Well, I mean, it's the difference between Ethan's team, showed up and, took their Adderall, and Scott and Josh's team, forgot to wake up that day. Unfortunately for Scott and Josh, their top scorer was Nico Collins, who had 12.6 points. And quite honestly, their bench wouldn't have helped. They only had 33 points on the bench. Oof, it was just a bad week all around for everybody on their team. Not that it's a bad team. It's pretty solid. It's just everybody.
No, it's a bad team. Josh was drafting, and you can see Scott sitting next to him, shaking his head the whole time during the draft. Scott is already trying to improve this. I know Derek Carr was a pickup this week on the waiver wire, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I added this week for $17 on the free agency in the waiver wire. He got 21 points and then dropped the ball this week with 8 points, as is tradition when you acquire somebody off the waiver wire. So hopefully he'll bounce back next week, maybe look a little better. How about over for Ethan with his big score this week?
Aaron Jones, 28.8 points. David Montgomery had himself a week. Basically, those NFC North running backs, I wouldn't say they carried the team because there were 5 20-point-plus scorers that Ethan started this week. And, I mean, if Josh and or Scott are looking for players, go look at Ethan Spence. Chuba Hubbard, Cortland Sutton had 43 points between the two of them on the bench. Ethan had 66 points on his bench this week. So, like I said, Scott and Josh's team isn't terrible per se. They just need a little bit of help. So.
Just a little guy?
Just a little bit.
Just a little. Yeah. The thing I'm noticing as I'm reviewing this is that both teams' tight ends suck. So Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, 2 points and 3.8 points, not great. But yeah, for Ethan, it really didn't matter when it came down to it. When you're putting up 25 points from your top 5 guys, you're going to start off at 125 points. You can run with that all day long.
Yeah, there wasn't much help on the bench, like I said. So
Ethan's first year into the league, he's sitting at 3-0. He's in third place at undefeated team. That's very impressive. He joins the league, joins the unranked boys, Nick and Lee, both sitting at first place at 3-0. So we'll see if he can keep it up. So, anything else on this matchup?
No, not really.
All right, this week's closest game was Eric and his What squad. I'm not entirely sure that I get his team name yet. Eric's What?
That's Austin 316 picture.
Oh, okay. What? Knocked off Brandon's blown call 98.9 to 91.3. That's about a 7.5 point game.
Yeah.
What's the first observation you got from here?
Mark Andrews, that really threw me off. I actually went and did some research on that. He's a tight end 9, and he put up nothing. He literally he wasn't even targeted.
No
he wasn't targeted.
Yeah, he ran 4 routes, I think I read. And I'm not entirely sure what it is like with their offense. I mean, they won. They beat Dallas comfortably. It might be a fact of, okay, we've got Derrick Henry now, we've got Lamar Jackson, let's run the ball. But with the way that it's operating now, you cannot be happy with the draft cost that you sunk into Mark Andrews for $21, and then, didn't end up getting a whole lot this week.
Well, it's basically comes down to Harbaugh's deal. Actually, Isaiah Lakely was only one catch for 4 yards, and he played 66% of the snaps. It was just the game plan this week. Because I really looked into that too, because, he's been solid for years. Like, what the heck happened? So that's basically what it is. And that would have been the difference, because Andrews was projected for like 8 points, and that's more than the differential here. This is a 7-point spread.
Yeah. I see over on the winning side, we've got, looks like Deontay Johnson with 26.2 points to lead for Eric. He seems like that's the big score from that. Other than that, a couple of 15-point days. No real bad games here other than the kicker with only 2.3 points, but kickers are hard to predict, so that's tough to say.
Well, I mean, they lost, and his kick was all the scoring. So what are you going to do? Couple of notes here. Lamar had a really good day. High score for Brandon with he had a rushing touchdown. That's what did that.
26 points.
Yeah. So that's what, because I'm assuming it's 6 points in your league.
No, I think so.
Yep. Okay. Also, too, Deontay Johnson finally had his first 100-yard day and also his first touchdown of the year.
Passing touchdowns are worth 4, rushing touchdowns and receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, it was a
6.
rushing touchdown. Lamar rushed it in.
So just a reminder for me for future reference, if I want to just click on any one of the numbers, it'll show you exactly the breakdown for scoring.
Yeah, it'd be nice if I got access to your league. Anyway.
It's public league.
I do know that didn't work. I'm doing this by hand, everybody. Scott gets all this fancy stuff to click on. One bright spot in Eric's loss, and also he didn't need any more points to win. He got her handled, but Andre Iosivas had 16 points. And quite honestly, I went and looked at his stats. I don't think 3 weeks is a trend, but most definitely probably better than the bench. Might be a solid flex play for him going forward here as a rookie.
Looking at his schedule, like, it's going to be a pretty soft first part of the year. Like, you got Green, you got one. You want to see the playoff schedule? That is 5
bad.
5 red teams and 1 medium team. The Cleveland has got a tough end of the year schedule this year with, although looking at these defenses, they might be looking as red as like what Yahoo expected at some point.
Yeah.
These defenses have not looked great this year so far, so this looks like maybe a really good pickup.
Yeah.
Over on the other side for Brandon, I mean, you have to be upset. You lost by 7, but you did leave a 21-point player in Jacoby Myers on your bench. He was better than all of the wide receivers that you started today, so any of the options would have been better than what you ran with.
I was just worried about the Baltimore tight end situation, so I did not notice that. But
yeah.
Good catch.
Yep. Okay, anything else here?
No, that was a nail biter and could have gone either way. So.
Yep. All right, moving over to the next game. So we've covered the high score, we've covered closest game, and we covered biggest blowout. The next one is my Detective Pikachu knocking off Chris's Minnesota Fanboy 140-76.
Well, I find where all the freaking tight ends are. They're on your team, you homer.
What, homer?
You had Ferguson on the bench with 10 points. Tight end 5 there. And you played.
Oh, hey, don't talk about that ranking. Don't talk about this tight end ranking. That's basically their projected numbers. For like this is not a Yahoo thing. This is a Scott only thing. So like these blue lines are an add-on that I have that nobody else can see. So you can only look at the other numbers in the white. So it's fine. They don't need to know about that.
How much money do you pay people to tell you to be good at fantasy football?
Nope, none. It's just an add-on.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
But anyway, yes, you're hoarding all the tight ends.
I do have 2 tight ends. To be fair, I have also considered trading one or the other. Derek has been looking for a tight end for a while. When we get to his team, you'll see why. Because it's been tough to figure out, but like, what do I want back for a tight end? Especially if I'm trading like backup tight end. Okay, who's going to give you much for that? So looking at my options, I've decided a couple of times to hold off on trading him because if for some reason I should have an injury to Dalton Kincaid, like I had with some of my wide receivers earlier in the year, I don't know that I have a good, I'll go to the waiver wire and pick up nothing. So that's why I've decided to hold on the 2 tight ends just in case of injury issue.
Who needs a tight end when you have Saquon Barkley, though? Let's be real.
Well, that's
also,
been a good start.
56 points on your bench today, too.
Yeah, it's mostly Devin, is it Devin Singletary? Or Daryl said? Yeah, Devin Singletary. He's been really good this year just based off of volume alone. He's not been, really efficient. He's getting into the end zone a little bit. He's going to be a great plug-in where I'm going to shove him in a bye week, and he's going to put up 2 points. Can't wait for that in 2 weeks. Because the first buys start in 2 weeks already. So, because I was already planning forward looking at my bye weeks. So, Saquon Barkley's on bye in 2 weeks, so that's not great. Congratulations to whoever plays me in week 5. All right, what else you finding on here?
Well, Chris actually had a decent for him day, I guess. Justin Jefferson had 20 points, which was only a quarter of his team's points.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it looks like his wide receiver core looked really solid here. Justin Jefferson and Marvin Harrison Jr. with 37 points. That's roughly half of yours total.
Yep. And then, he had A-Rod's BFF in the flex spot there for...
In the flex? That's Denard Robinson.
Oh, sorry, nope. Sober...
That one, Lazard's on the bench.
For 13 points.
Did not get him into the lineup. Yeah. 13 points at wide receiver. The only place he would have been bettered was over Denard Robinson in the flex spot.
Yeah.
Denard Robinson was DeMarcus Robinson, my apologies, was highly picked, but playing against the Niners, you never know what you're going to get. Yeah.
Also, you can't put lipstick on a pig. And that's basically what we're trying to do right now with Chris's team. So.
Unfortunately, it looks like he's looking at his bench. I mean, he's got, Christian McCaffrey hurt. Kareem Hunt he picked up with the assumption that, filling in Kansas City after he just signed, who knows how that'll go or when he'll plug in. And then you've got Jordan Love, who's out for maybe another week, maybe not, depending on...
It sounded like he almost could have went this week, so my guess is he'll be in next week.
I suspect that this entire shenanigans about will he or won't he is just so that way they gave Minnesota film of the rushing quarterback to look at, and now Jordan Love. Now you have to figure out which of the 2 styles that you're going to get. The last 2 weeks, they weren't going to play him because they knew they were playing against 2 defenses that maybe weren't as good. This week feels like it could be the first week where you might even get some of both. I almost wonder if they'll be like, okay, we're going to bring Jordan Love in for some plays, but in order to keep him healthy, we're going to bring Willis back in and have him rush occasionally. I don't know. This weekend's game against Minnesota should be very interesting.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Tom. Moving on?
Yeah. Before somebody drops a Wildcat, let's move on.
He's gone.
Never mind.
Oh, the Wildcat, a reference? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next game. Aaron's picking so bad it hurts. 103 points over Drew's D-. It's funny because Drew's D-, that reference is, I believe, to your draft grade. When I looked at the recap from last week, you had put up a D-. I don't know what the recap this week looks like, but we can click on this little button here, and it is a D+. We're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, also moving in the right direction, Joe Burrow. 25 points, lead scorer for you, man. That was actually really good. Unfortunately, Dwan Jennings on the bench had himself a day, and that would have won it for you. 49 points on your bench. There's just no way to not feel that pain.
Props for having him on your roster ahead of time.
Yeah.
Added from waivers on Wednesday.
Ooh.
Really good. And a $0 player. Unfortunately, you weren't confident enough to get him into your lineup. You would have had to... you could have gotten him in over Najee Harris. Otherwise, Xavier Worthy or Brandon Cooks. The corpse of Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is so old at this point. Also, as an owner of Dak, I have no idea what the fuck Mike McCarthy is doing in Dallas. It is train wreck.
That's okay. Mike doesn't know either, so.
Fair enough. All right. What over on the winning side for Aaron?
Chris Olave did real solid, 20 points. He also had London with 18 points and Hall with 18 points. So, real good, solid day. You're not
going to talk about that tight end situation at all?
Yeah.
That'd be a 30 bomb on the bench there with Dallas Goedert.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep, I did have that here. Yeah, that sucks.
I mean,
but you didn't need it. You won.
You didn't need it, but you won. But like, you could have either gotten him in for Brock Bowers, which the rookies look really good so far, or you could have played him over Jameson Williams, with Jameson Williams having 1 rush for 9 yards and
-7 rush yards
and one reception. Sorry, 1 reception for 9 yards and -7 rushing yards. That 1.2 points definitely did not help you. But again, another situation where 2 tight ends. He's running a second one. I would be looking, if I was going to be trading, I would be talking to Aaron. I think that those are 2 tight ends better than my 2 tight ends.
Also, like, when's the last time you played a tight end in the flex? That just usually never works out.
So it happens occasionally. It's not super often, but I mean, I get that, yeah. So, all right.
So anyway, yeah, Aaron also had 42 points on the bench, but most of that was from 1 player, so that's okay.
Yeah. All right.
This was a good, solid matchup.
Please cut my balls. 125-109 over Tom's Always the McBridesmaid. This is Lee sitting at 3-0. I think we did this last year where you started off hot at the very beginning of the year and then it went downhill. So hopefully we're going to be trending the right way this year.
Well, Rashee Rice is actually a really big part of that. He had 29 points this week, top scorer for Lee. Actually, I was really intrigued by this stat. Rashee Rice has had 24 catches through week 3. Last year, he had 79 total. He's already like 30% into his total for the year if you go off of last year. So he's got a lot of upside. I don't know if he's going to be slowing down.
That feels like a great I mean, you paid $20 for him. There was a lot of question marks about him early in the preseason, whether he'd get suspended, whether he wouldn't. And so far, he's looking like a slam dunk pick.
But these team all the way through, like, just solid, like, double-digit numbers. Like, his bench... Like, yes, he had 47 points in his bench, but it was so evenly distributed that bye weeks aren't even going to phase this guy. If everybody keeps on going like things are going.
Looks like a pretty injured squad, though. He's got Cooper Kupp already out. It's going to be out for a few weeks. Doesn't have an IR spot for him. He's got David Njoku in an IR and Keaton Mitchell in the IR spots as well. But other than that, the 3 guys that he had all exceeded their expectations, except for T. Higgins. Which T. Higgins, I don't know what's going on in Baltimore or in Cincinnati yet. He's still trying to figure it out there.
I don't think Cincinnati knows what's going on in Cincinnati, so that's okay.
How about for Tom?
Tom, Derrick Henry. He is no longer a shambling corpse. 33 points for the old man.
It's tough to say that the guy who's the king, that's his nickname, is a shambling corpse.
I know, it took him a bit to get back to his average, and quite honestly, he's on year 9 of an amazing average.
Is that year 9?
Yeah, I was looking at the stats earlier today.
Oofda.
Yeah, and he's really, really solid. 5 yards.
Man, he sucks.
A rush.
Tennessee just choked his career away. Holy cow, they should have done way better with that.
Yeah, I mean, so, yeah, I think he'll be a good, solid play for the rest of the year. Although I did feel a little bit bad for Roma Dunze, 23 points on the bench for Tom. That would have won it for him.
If he would have had to have benched, the only player that would have won that for you. You needed 16 points. Roma Dunze's 23 to swap out for Devontae Adams is only like 15. That wouldn't have been enough to win the game on its own. You would have had to make another swap somewhere. So. Looking at Austin Eckler with 16 points. You could have swapped him in for J.K. Dobbins. So the points were there, the opportunity, but it would have required a couple triggers. Really where you went wrong is trusting Dallas's defense against Baltimore. 1, Dallas's defense has not looked good this year. And 2, as it turns out, Baltimore can run the ball, and Dallas seems to have a real hard time stopping people running the ball.
Pretty sure that's all they can do. Even Lamar is most effective on his feet, right?
Sometimes.
But, yeah, anyway, and also who's going to trust a Bears quarterback to actually do things, so I would have not played Odunze either, so.
Well, I mean, this was Odunze's first, his first big game of the year as a rookie coming out. He had a really good game. The problem was that Caleb Williams had to throw the ball 50 times or something like that this weekend. There's a real question mark around that offense as well.
All
right. Next one. We got Trent getting his first win of the season. Deucing in the Porta John, our Deuce, knocking off Derek's Hawk Tua, 122-108.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, 29 points for Trent here in the win. That's a real solid pickup. Or I don't know if picked him up or drafted him, but
He drafted him a couple years ago.
Yeah.
He's a keeper for a buttload of money. $80.
oh, Pacheco's on the IR. What you gonna do, right? I would also point out that you got an empty bench spot there, buddy. Hopefully you just had a failed waiver pickup there for the week, but I noticed that it's like, dude, you're the deuce. You need all the help you can get, and they want to fill that. Not fill that versus having to have porta potty jokes again next year. Derek.
Well, getting a win this week is the first step in the right direction.
Yeah. Derek had Kyron Williams, 31 points this week as his top scorer. Man, you need a wide receiver, though. You have, like, an embarrassment of running backs. Like, your running backs, you had 60 points from the ones you started, and then you had, like, another,
Well, you got Chase Brown here for 13.
Yeah, I guess that's not a...
Rashad White for
11,
8.5.
Like, all you have is running backs. You need some wide receivers in there.
Blake Corum had no points.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's not good.
No. So, but anyway, I'm just saying, you have, like, all running backs. Get some wide receivers. So.
Yeah, he's got Lad McKinkey at 7.5 points, but Calvin Ridley didn't do a whole lot. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyreek Hill. That Dallas offense looks very sus without Tua there. I don't know if Skylar Moore is going to have it, so we'll figure out what he ends up with. Anything left here?
No.
Okay. And for our final game of the week, Nick's T-Bolden Girls knocks off Will's Galactic Gibbs Gang. Well, thank you for that tongue twister. 131 to 121.
Yeah, look at this. Josh Allen. Also, somewhat back from the almost dead. 30 points there.
This is like a hell of a quarterback matchup between these two. Like 30 points, 30.9 for Josh Allen and 28.0 for Jaden Daniels. Both of those games were going on at the same time on Monday night. I know this one was back and forth, neck and neck.
Yes.
I mean, it ended up being a 10-point margin, but I believe the only other player that was playing on Monday night was Zach Ertz, who had 8 points and change, and he had, close to 20. You would have ended up getting a win here. Needed a touchdown, probably.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills just shellacked Jacksonville last night, but, that's still a really good night from Allen, and doesn't matter by how much they beat it by. Malik Neighbors, top scorer for Nick, with 28.2 points. Khalil Shakir on his bench, though, has got to hurt a little bit. He had 19 points, would have been real good there in that number 2 spot, but it just didn't happen. Also, you have a couple of tight ends as well, bud. I was looking at that. Firemouth put up 7 points, and Ingram didn't have anything because, he's old. Like, he's dead and buried. Like, probably half decomposed at this point.
Wait, Evan Ingram was, like, the number 1 tight end last year. He's listed as questionable. I suspect that he probably got hurt. Status for 4 uncertain. Inactive. He was hurt. That's why he got 0 points.
Okay.
You cannot call a guy out for not playing.
Well, it has a Q by it. Whatever. Again, I'm doing this. I can't click on the links to investigate. Right.
Fair enough. That does make it a lot harder.
Yes.
So. All right. Well, that was the last of the matchups. Anything else you want to weigh in on the matchups?
No, it's looks like a pretty competitive season for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, we got one team at 0-3. Scott and Josh are still struggling there. 3 teams at 3-0. So
but
we've
look
got
at their points against. They're like way up. They have
421
points
that's more
against.
Than the.
Yes.
It's almost as much as Nick has scored. So
yeah.
Nick scored 434. Scott and Josh have had 421 against. Looking at like the big free agent buys from last week, the big players that were picked up. Quentin Johnson went to Chris for no money, actually, over Brandon. Derek Carr, the $17 player, we talked about him earlier. Scott and Josh started him this week, did not work out. Spent $17 on the bid, but the next highest bid was $3 from Trent. So might have been a little bit of an overpay. Carson Steele, very popular pick this week. Also, Scott picked him up for $23. Again, another one. I don't know that you actually started him. I think he only got 8.5 points there. So another meh performance, as they might say. Those were the big contested players this week. The other guys were all from 2 weeks ago. So, outside of that, I still don't have a good way of tracking our defensive wagers. I'm going to try to figure that out in the next week or two, depending on when I have an open weekend where I can put something together. Other than that, congratulations to the high scorer this week, Ethan, and we will see everybody next week. Any final words?
Someone needs to help Scott with the video next week. Anyone? All you need to do is sit here and mock everybody. It's pretty fun.
Aaron and I have talked about meeting potentially in a bar somewhere and doing it after work on Tuesday. So if anybody else would like to, is local to the Monroe area, would like to take part in the group shaming session, please feel free to join us. So, all right, catch you next week.
See you guys.